Hello and welcome back to Bumble Stitches. My name's Nicola and Bumble Stitches is my YouTube channel where I share cross stitch, knitting and quilting. Today I'm going to share some quilting with you. I hope you're all doing well. It's Sunday the 18th of October and I'm coming to you from my home in Suffolk on the east coast of England. And it's a dry but overcast day here, and I'm hoping it isn't going to rain because it can get quite noisy here in my conservatory. I've switched things around today, so I'm sitting on the sofa here, opposite from where I normally film on my previous couple of videos. So I just thought I'd switch things up a little bit and share some quilting with you. I've noticed that there's been a huge amount of new subscribers to the channel which have come over to look at the floss tube video which I put out last week. So a big warm welcome if you're watching today's video. Lots of you mentioned that you'd be interested in seeing some of my quilting, so that was really encouraged me to do this for you today. And if you're looking out for more floss tube from me, that will be with you next week. Just to clarify, because a couple of people had asked me if there was another channel for quilting or if there was, different channels. Everything that I film and put up on YouTube to share with you will be on this channel, Bumble Stitches, and there will be videos that are entirely floss tube videos or a quilting episode like today, and sometimes knitting and other sort of crafty things that I get up to. So I hope that clarifies. So you just need to stay here, that's all you need to do. And if you haven't subscribed, then please do. And if you want to be notified, you can always click on the bell. Right, so quilting, I have not been quilting very long. It's always something that I wanted to do, but thought it was very complicated and difficult and I probably wouldn't do a very good job of it. And I am that kind of person that likes to do something well if I'm going to do it, and I'm not a very good beginner. I want to be able to do it perfectly like an expert from the get-go, and we all know that doesn't happen, so I think that sometimes puts me off doing things. But it was last year in the summer of 2019 that I finally took the plunge and started to make a quilt. I bought a jelly roll in a shop one day when I was looking for other items, and it looked so pretty sitting there as jelly rolls do, and I thought, oh well, I'll get that, and it sat on the shelf for probably about a year. And I was inspired by my lovely friend Jules of So Sweet Violet podcast. Lots of you are probably familiar with Jules, and if you aren't, do check her out. She has beautiful knitting and sewing and all sorts of crafty things on her podcast. But Jules made a log cabin quilt from, I'm not sure if she used the jelly roll or just used scraps from stash, but it was all sort of, quite a big sort of log cabin. So I thought, well, it's beautiful, perhaps I could have a try of that. So I did some Googling of some patterns, and I did make a quilt, a jelly roll quilt, log cabin. It's not very big. It's going to be difficult. I'm aware that it's going to be difficult in this sort of area to show you a full quilt. But and you may, if you watch my knitting podcasts from way back, you would probably have seen this. So I did share it on there. But I thought I'd start afresh today with quilting. So this is my. Let me just see how much I can get in for you. So this was a Moda jelly roll. I think it's called Freya and Friends. Not sure if it's still available. I liked the shades of sort of peachy pink and blues. I thought it was really pretty. So as you can see, and this is, what is it? 1, 2, 3. I think it's about, here's the other end. So it's 1, 2, 3. It's 4 log cabin blocks in the length of it, and it just goes 3 across the top. And I just quilted it myself on my machine at home, just very simple with my walking foot. Just marked out some diagonal lines, and each of these blocks finishes round about 12 inches, I would say, maybe a little bit more. But because it was a jelly roll, it was super easy to do. I just backed it with a plain fabric and hand sewed the binding to the back. And this quilt lives on the the sort of spare bed that's in my craft room, and it just sort of sits on the top, and it's a nice size, and it was a good size to get started with quilting, I think. And once I'd done that, obviously it really isn't perfect, but I'm guessing it was good enough to make me pursue quilting a little bit more. I'd got a good enough result that I thought I would have another go. So I'll just fold this one up and pop that out of the way. Okay, so the next quilt that I actually finished is this one that's sitting here on the couch next to me. And this is sort of like a lap size, really. Well, when I say lap size, I get a bit confused with the sizes of quilts, and sometimes what's called a lap size quilt on a quilt pattern can actually be quite big, or seems quite big to me. But this one here is, I think it's about 54 inches square. So, and you'll see, it's not very big at all. I can actually hold it up, so that's the bottom of it. So, I don't know if you can see, and this one I have hand quilted, and I used, let's sit down. For this one, let's start at the beginning with the fabric that I used. When I went to the quilt show in Cambridge last year, I bought a pack of 5-inch scraps, if you like, that were all colour coordinated, from a company called Worn and Washed Fabrics, and that's their detail there. And basically, Kim Porter, whose company Worn and Washed Fabrics is, she gathers used fabrics and washes them and presses them and then cuts them into bundles for quilting. And she mostly does sort of quilt sizes, all different quilt sizes, and sometimes little cushion packs and stuff like that. So I'll show you a couple of those in a moment. So this was one of her selections. So you can see there are lots of different fabrics on here, and she gathers them into sort of coordinating bundles. And I really like this natural sort of bundle because I thought it would look nice on this couch. And the backing that I chose was a Moda fabric. This is, I think it was Canning Day by Corey Yoder, and I just went for the grey. And as I said, I wanted to keep that sort of worn and washed look, so that's why I decided to hand quilt it. And I used a scrappy binding, which is all the little bits of fabric. So there was enough in the kit to make this size quilt and the binding. And then I just marked 1/2-inch lines down the length of the quilt with varying success. I started out trying to do it with a friction pen, and I'd heard some stories online, sort of horror stories of people saying that the friction pen hadn't washed out properly or it had come back. So I was a little bit concerned about that, so I tried to think of another method, and in the end I used a hero marker, which is a little tool by Clover. I haven't got it handy right now, and you just go along with your ruler and it sort of scores a line into your fabric. And I used that to mark the quilting lines, and then just did a running stitch, so it's like a big sort of quilting stitch using the Orifil 12 weight thread. And it used best part of 2 spools of thread, but it was really therapeutic to sit in the evenings just quilting on this, and I really love the effect that it's given. I think it really lends itself to these fabrics, and I've totally been inspired by the quilts that Kim had on the sand. So you can see most of her samples are hand quilted, so I thought it was nice to just sort of try and get that effect. I think this one here is actually the same or very similar fabric pack that I just showed you. So that was a really enjoyable thing to do. All the strips are 5 inches wide, varying lengths, and you just join them up into strips and then just trim off the edges to get a nice square edge. So I had really enjoyed doing that and thought I would like to do some other bits with Kim's fabrics. While I was at the show where I purchased the bundle to make that, I also bought one of her log cabin kits for the cushion, and I made this little cushion here, or pillow, whatever you prefer to call it. And again, this was another kit that I got from her, and you can see there are so many different fabrics here. Some are sort of shirtings, like men's sort of shirts. There's a little bit of sort of like flannelly type fabric here. Lots and lots of different strips, and she gives you instructions with it of how to make it. And you basically just take the strips and just sew onto a sort of piece of like foundation piece of fabric, just a piece of muslin, something like that. And you just build and press and trim as you go, just making an irregular sort of log cabin. And she has some stunning ones, all sorts of different kits. There's one, again, I keep referring to this, you can see that beautiful example on the chair there. And she even gives you fabric for the backing. I just made like an envelope style backing for that. And it also made me realise that even the tiniest, I mean, some of these little strips that come in the kit are tiny little pieces of fabric. And I thought, well, I have been known to be quite naughty and just throw stuff away when there are little tiny strips left over from projects. So it's made me rethink that and save all those little bits, because you can always make something like this. This is only about 12 inches. It's about 12.5 inches, I think. So I use my 12.5 inch square ruler to trim it up. And again, I hand quilted this just sort of every other row with quite a big stitch just to finish it off. And again, such a fun project, something you can just sit, you know, once it's done you can sit and quilt it on your lap of an evening, use up all your scraps. So really lovely little cushion. And this also sits on the bed with the other quilt. So, but I'm looking forward to making some more in this style. I did buy another bundle of Kim's fabrics, which hasn't actually made it further than being a pretty bundle, because it is so pretty that I want it to stay like this for a while, because it sits in my sewing room and looks so gorgeous. But you can see, hopefully the camera's picking up, there are so many fabrics in here, really pretty, sort of like stripy. Some of them are literally like old shirts or old sheets, like old bed linen and stuff like that. And they're all beautifully washed and pressed, so, and just made into such gorgeous bundles. And again, this is a 5-inch wide strip, and I think this is enough to make a quilt to cover a single bed. So it'll be a bit bigger than the other one. And I know you are, well, are there any rules in quilting, or any rules at all? I think you just do what you want, don't you? I have saved a very old Kath Kidston duvet cover from absolute years ago that I'm going to use as the backing for this. And while I wouldn't necessarily use something like that for a new quilt, a quilt with new fabrics for the backing, I think actually it will really lend itself to this, because these are all upcycled fabrics anyway, and the colours are right. It's a white with a sort of a pinky floral design on, so I think it will look really, really pretty. And when I get round to doing that one, I think I'm going to hand quilt it as well. So that is definitely something to look forward to. But for now, it's just going to stay pretty in my sewing room. So if you did want to check Kim out, she has a website, but I don't think she sells directly from her website, but she does sell on Instagram. So there is some information there. So it's Kim Porter Fabrics on Instagram, and I'll just pop it along the bottom of the screen here for you, so you can see that if you wanted to take a look. After my successes with a couple of quilts and the pillow that I've shared with you already, I decided to start thinking a bit bigger, and I wanted a big Christmas quilt for all the family to get cosy under at Christmas time. And I thought it was going to be a bit of a challenge for me because I'd only done small things, but I'm a bit of a sort of, you know, jump in the deep end kind of person. So I had a little look through a book, this book here, which is called Charm School, by Vanessa Gertzen of Lella Boutique. And I actually won this book in a giveaway on Instagram. And I won it probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And I wasn't a quilter at the time, but I looked at all the lovely quilts inside and just dreamed that one day I might be able to make them, but probably not. But it was just such a lovely book to have, so I kept it. So I thought for my Christmas quilt, I'd see if I could get some inspiration from here. I thought anything that's made with a charm pack would be easier for me to use pre-cuts rather than trying to cut sort of yardage of fabric. So I had a little look through, and the quilt I decided on was this one, which is called Snowfall. So you can see it's kind of like a snowflake design. And the blocks are 18 by 18 inches and the finished quilt is 70 inches by 70 inches. And there's another image of it there. So that's the quilt that I went for. Now I'm going to have a struggle to show you the whole quilt. Well, I won't be able to show you the whole quilt here because there's not enough room. But I did get Justin to stand out in the garden with the quilt, which I'll pop an image of in for you now. And as you can see, the bottom of it was blowing around a little bit. It wasn't really an ideal day to try and get a photo of the quilt, but hopefully you get a bit of an idea, and I'll show it to you now. So it's all folded up at the moment, but you get an idea. So the fabrics that I've used for this quilt are by Bonnie and Camille, and it's called Vintage Holiday. And you can see I've put a lovely, I'm just in love with stripy binding. I think it looks so nice. Let's see if I can hold some of this up and show you so you get an idea. It is big though, well, I think it's big. So you get an idea of what we're talking about of the blocks. So you can see the snowflake blocks. I love this fabric line so much. Just love those sort of vintage colours. And it's a square quilt. Favourite blocks are actually in the middle, which is going to be the hardest place to show. So you can get the idea of this quilt a little bit. And I'm really proud of it. I don't like to blow my own trumpet, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I am really, really proud of it because I did bite off quite a lot more than I could chew at the time. So the blocks are 18 inches, so that was quite big. The piecing is really simple. You know, there was nothing difficult there. But of course, as a fairly new quilter, I still had to get everything as lined up as best I could, and get the borders on, and just the sheer size of it, I think, was the challenge in itself. And of course, I had to be working on this in possibly the hottest week of the summer this year. So it was in sort of July of this year. There's a bit of a pattern emerging, isn't there? The first quilt I made was July 2019, and I can remember that being scorching hot. And it was scorching hot when I was sitting making this. So let me tell you a little bit about how I quilted it, because that's a bit of a epic in itself. I was absolutely determined that I was going to get some sort of free motion, sort of meandering style pattern on this, and I have never done it before. And some of these, I don't know if you can see, it's not perfect, it's not great by any stretch, but it's done. The quilt is done. I wanted to do, it's blowing out a bit, isn't it? I wanted to have a go at sort of free motion quilting, so I did my best. There's some real wobbly areas and areas that aren't great, but in saying that, it was a real learning curve, and I've learned lots of things that are a good idea to do and lots of things that aren't a good idea to do. I then went on and did the all the borders just with a walking foot, just doing sort of 1/2 inch apart just straight. But the way I did it, so I did them all running along the length of the border strips. But the problem with that was I had lots of stops and starts, and the back of this quilt really isn't great. I'm going to give you a little flash. I used this just red and white polka dot, so I don't know if you can see. There were lots and lots of stops and starts on it. But it's going to serve its purpose. It's going to be a really nice, cosy, festive quilt, big enough for everyone to get under on the sofa, and it's done. Yeah, you know, that pretty much is what I can say about that. I think if I ever tackle a quilt this big again, I've learned that basting the quilt is really, really difficult if you don't have a huge amount of space. I did, fortunately, at that time, this area we're in now, in this conservatory, had just been painted, ready for the new furniture coming in. So I had a completely empty room. So I managed to lay it all out on the floor, get it all basted. I used a combination of the 505 spray based, and then I pinned as well, just for super security while I was quilting. But of course, you know, the room's got furniture in it now. I don't have a table big enough, and I think going forward I would think about sending it off for long arm quilting, which I know is quite expensive, and I don't know how it compares here in the UK to sort of prices over in the States and in other countries, but I think it's, you know, well in excess of £100 to get a quilt quilted, and I think that would just be with a you know, with a pantograph and not with any sort of custom or different work on the borders like I've attempted here, thinking I was being super fancy. But to get all this done, I don't have a particularly wide space. My sewing machine is a Janome, and I don't have a particularly wide space. I don't know what the technical name is for it, but the space between the needle that you can actually have the quilt in. Yeah, it's not a particularly big area, so wrestling this thing, it was okay around when I was here, but when I was in the middle of the quilt it was crazy, and it was hot, and I did yeah, we did fall out quite a few times, but I persevered and got it done. And yeah, it didn't put me off making any more quilts, which is the main thing. I'm a huge Laurie Holt fan, and you probably have heard that if you watch my floss tube video that I put out last week. I really like the quilts that Laurie does particularly, and I thought they would be way too difficult for someone that's a relative newbie to quilting like me. It didn't stop me buying all the books though, so I bought Farm Girl Vintage and the Christmas one. I thought it might be a little bit too much to dive straight in and attempt a quilt, so I thought just to try and make a block in the first instance would be a really good idea. So I chose a block, and I am rather fond of a bumblebee. So I had a little look in Farm Girl Vintage 2, and this little cutie here, the honeybee block, is the one that I decided to do. You're probably familiar, but if you're not, all of the blocks in the Farm Girl Vintage books and in the Christmas one I've got, I don't know about any others because those are the only ones that I've got, but they all have options to make them in either 6 inches or 12 inches. So obviously a 12-inch block would be easier, but I didn't know what I was going to do with a 12-inch block of a honeybee. So I decided to make the 6-inch block. And there's a really cute pattern in the back of the book. There are some little sewing projects other than quilts that you can make some little fun little projects. And this is a pin pillow. It's quite a big pin pillow, as you can see. It's a little bit on the large size, but who cares when it's this cute? So I made my honeybee block and quilted it. I had another go at my meandering, as you can see. Another little bit of practice of free motion, which went much better this time. And embroidered the little antenna on and finished it. It has a little pocket here that you can pop your scissors in, and what I plan to do is sit this on the table next to me when I'm doing my cross stitch and pop my scissors in here, and you can pop any pins or needles, just sit them in there. The actual pattern called for some rickrack binding along here between the two sections, because this section's all quilted and obviously this one isn't because it's got the pocket. But I didn't have any, so I just put a thin piece of fabric and popped some little tiny buttons on there just as a little cute accent. And then I used some more Lori Holt fabric on the back. Love this. I'm going to use this to make a project bag for my cross stitching, and when I do I'm going to actually just free motion along so that it looks like a proper cheat sort of quilt, isn't it? And just put one of my little labels on. I used to make project bags for my Etsy shop, but I haven't really done that for quite a while. So these are all Lori Holt fabrics with the exception of the plain grey, which I think was a Tilda one. And I just love it. I thought it turned out really, really well. I was pleased with the quilting. It was such fun. I mean, the actual block itself, again, it's not perfect, but I think it turned out well enough. And I'm super chuffed with it. So that was the first project that I've ever made from one of Lori's quilting books. And I'm thinking, well, if I can do the Bumblebee in a 6-inch, then I can definitely do it in a 12-inch. And if I can do it in a 12-inch, then I can probably make some of the other blocks in the book. And who knows, I could, you know, maybe even one day have a gorgeous quilt. There's one in the book that I'm going to attempt to find now. I haven't marked the page, so I might not be able to find it. But if I can find it, it's called the Beekeeper's Quilt. There's another image actually in the book that shows you, there's no pattern here, so I'm not giving anything away. So yeah, totally wanted to make the bee pincushion after I saw it here. But I'm just going to have a very quick look and see if I can find the quilt. I think it's that one, page 144. No, I can't find it right now, and I'm not going to... Oh, here it is. Look, I found it. I'm saying all that, and I have actually found it. This one, with the beehives and the bees and the flowers, that really calls to me. So I think the next quest is to try and gather up some, I don't know if you can see that clearly, gather up some fabrics that I can do. I like the fact that these are all scrappy. We don't tend to get a full range of Lori Holt's fabrics here in the UK. They're a little bit harder to come by. Obviously I can order them from the States, but then you run the gauntlet of Her Majesty's Customs and how much they want to add on for the tax and then the post office duties and all that kind of thing. So it does get kind of expensive. So the fact that you can use lots of different scraps appeals to me. So I just need to look out for some nice yellow fabrics so that I can make the beehives. And, you know, just do it a bit at a time, make a block every time I feel like it and put them away and eventually have a beautiful quilt. So I've got another quilt plan as well, which is a little bit closer to reality than the honeybee quilt. And it's inspired by this gorgeous jelly roll. But again, this has been in my stash for a long time. This is a Tilda jelly roll from the apple butter range, and you can just see these gorgeous colours in here. Again, it's such a shame to have to break a jelly roll down, isn't it? Because they're just gorgeous in their own right. But I've had it for long enough now. It's been an ornament for long enough. It needs to actually become something useful. So I had a little look in another quilting book. This is one that I bought a while ago. I just bought this on Amazon. Simply Retro by Camille Roskelly, and she is obviously Camille of Bonnie and Camille. And there's a gorgeous quilt in here which spoke to me, and just moved the post-it note. This quilt is called Swell. And isn't it beautiful? Now this calls for a jelly roll and obviously some extra fabric for the borders and the background. But you can see it's quite a simple pattern by the looks of it. But the problem that I have is it's that fabric problem, isn't it? Clearly don't have enough fabric stash yet. These Tilda jelly rolls are not as big as Moda jelly rolls. I think Moda jelly rolls have about 40 strips on them. I might be wrong. but I think it's around 40, and this has 30 strips. You can see it's actually quite small compared to the Moda ones, so there isn't quite enough on here, so I need to have a little look around the internet and see if I can find some additional Tilda apple butter fabrics just to make up the shortfall, so that I can make that quilt. But I think it would look really lovely in that design, and of course I will keep you posted as to my progress. I'll let you know when I find some fabric and get started on this one too. Okay, how are we doing? I've been chatting away for quite a while, haven't I? I think what I'm going to show you next is a little bit of English paper piecing that I've been doing, and then I'll chat about my journey to Nebula as well. And if you don't know what that is, I'll tell you about it in a moment. So let's have a very quick chat about English paper piecing. I am in the middle, well, probably not quite in the middle. I'm just getting the bits and pieces out from under the table to show you what I'm using. I'm doing a pattern called Tulips Bloomers, and again, as I mentioned, I'm very much an in at the deep end, and I want to do the most difficult thing straight away and be good at it. I don't know why I'm like that, but it's just how I am. So I decided as my first English paper piecing project to take this project on, which is Tulips Bloomers. And this is just the image that came with the paper pieces. So you can see it's quite a colourful quilt. Basically this same motif here, and then the background changes colour just to sort of tie them all in together. So I bought the pack of paper pieces, so they're all in there. There's quite a lot of paper pieces. And I also bought these are a bit rattly. These are the acrylic templates for cutting your fabric. So I bought those. I mean, I'm guessing if you've got the paper pieces, you can just pop them down and then just make sure you cut your fabric, you know, a little bit bigger according to the shape. But I thought I'd make my life easier. So these are really cool because you get a nice acrylic template for each of the pieces that you need. And I just pop these on a little rotating cutting mat, and I've bought a smaller rotary cutter just to make life easier, just to cut the pieces out. So, and all of those pieces are in the box. So let's show you some actual progress on it. I've made quite a few of the motifs, and what I decided to do was use the some Tilda fabrics. So I'm a bit of a Tilda fan, as you can see. So all different, I'll just pop them on my lap and I'll just show you the ones that I've made so far. That one. And that one. They've all still got the papers in at the back. Green one. That one. Just go a bit quicker because you're going to fall asleep, aren't you? That one. The blue one. And an orange one. And the good thing about those acrylic templates is when you pop them on your fabric, you can actually line up a certain part of the pattern on the fabric of the design, so that you can make each one the same, so you then create like an extra design when you piece them together. So I've got about, I don't know how many I showed you there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I've got 8 done, and I've got in my, sorry I keep popping down because there's a little shelf under the table where I've popped everything, and I've got another one that's in progress here. I'm just doing, which I've got in my little basket here. I'm basting them all with a Soline glue pen. I know you can baste with needle and thread, but I just find this so much easier to do that. And the other thing I'm doing, which was totally inspired by watching a Tula Pink video on English paper piecing, I'm using this product, which I don't know if you can see. They are called, I'm trying to get it to catch the light, they're called Sew Tights. And basically they're a magnet a magnetised sort of clip, if you like. So there's 2 pieces, and let me just see if I can show you. So if you were wanting to sew these, oops, throwing them everywhere. If you're wanting to sew these 2 pieces together, you would line them up. So you just line the 2 pieces up, and then you take your sew tight clip and separate it and put one piece on the front, and the backing just snaps on the back, and that holds it completely in place and doesn't get in your way when you're hand sewing. So they are really, really useful. I was using little wonder clips that you use for quilting, but I found that if I had them clipped on, inevitably as I was hand sewing, the thread would get caught around, and it's just too frustrating. So these are a really cool little product. I bought mine from Lovely Jubbly Fabrics in the UK, but I'm sure they're available in the States and elsewhere in the world. But yeah, I'm trying to get it to show sew tights. I'll write it down the bottom here. So that made life much more easy. Okay, so shall we have a chat about Journey to Nebula? I'll just go and grab all the bits and pieces for that, and I'll be back in just a sec. This is really exciting. If you're not aware, Nebula is a block of the month quilt pattern that comes out at the beginning of next year. I think it starts shipping towards the end of this year, but officially starts in 2021. It's a design by Julie Herman of Jaybird Quilts using Tudor pink fabric, which I love. I'm not quite sure it goes with my home, but I love it and I just can't resist. So Nebula is what I thought would be doable for me. Having since seen it listed as an advanced pattern on some quilting shop websites, I don't know what I've let myself in for, but Journey to Nebula is designed to get you ready for Nebula when it starts next year. So Journey to Nebula is a series of small patterns using the rulers that are used in the Nebula quilt and the techniques that are used in the Nebula quilt next year. So that as you progress through the Journey to Nebula patterns, by the time the block of the month starts next year, you have got your skills honed and you're good to go to start on the big quilt project. And I need it. I've learnt so much. Okay, so the patterns, they're small patterns. I'm hoping they won't glare too much. I should have taken them out of the bags. The first one in the series is this table runner called Seaside. And so they're all by Jaybird Quilts. And Seaside, well, I should point out first, before I show you some of the projects, these, how difficult is it to show rulers? Use the Sidekick or Super Sidekick ruler from Jaybird Quilts and the Hex and More ruler as well. And with these 2 rulers you can cut diamonds and hexagons and half diamonds and all sorts of wonderful shapes that you can join to make the Nebula quilt. And I'm assured there is no Y seams or anything really sort of difficult to do, so everything's all pieced, because Nebula, I'll try and pop a photo in here for you to show you. So Nebula at first glance looks like it might be English paper piecing, but it is all machine pieced. So the first project, let's get back to where I was. So the first project is Seaside, which is a table runner. And so here's my Seaside table runner, which you can see here. And this was the first sort of skill builder to get you used to cutting your pieces with the rulers and the assembly. And there are also videos on YouTube that Julie Herman does, little tutorials every week, one for cutting your pieces and then one the next week for actually piecing. So this was done with, I'm trying to think of the fabric, I think it's called Summer Sweet by Sherry and Chelsea for Moda Fabrics. And I bought a jelly roll, and I really like this with just the cream background, and I just backed it with some yardage from the same fabric line and finished it off. I just machine bound to the front and hand sewed to the back. And again, I just used a walking foot and just quilted just to emphasize the lines there. So I was really pleased with that as a first part of the Skill Builder series, and it looks really, really nice on the table, on the dining room table, which is a bonus. So that's the first pattern. Pop that on there. The second pattern in the Skill Builder is Lucky Charm, and you can see it's hexagonal and it's a large pillow or cushion. And I was a bit concerned about how we were going to do hexagons with machine piecing, but again, Julie's got it all covered. You use your, I think this used the Hex and More ruler to cut your hexagons with. I'll hold it there, you can see it a bit better, can't you? So you cut your hexagons with that, and this is my piece. I haven't actually made this up, it's not sort of completely finished, this is just sort of like the quilted piece, but you can see it turned out really well. And again, I just quilted this, just popped the walking foot on and just sort of quilted across. But I was really, really pleased with it, how it came out. It's such a really simple way to do the hexagons with the Hex and More ruler, because essentially you're stitching half hexagons in strips and then joining them together, so you're just stitching straight lines all the time. Obviously there is quite a lot of bias fabric going on, so you have to be careful, but I've learned a lot about stitching on the bias, like sewing on the bias with my machine, and about pressing seams open, which I thought I was not going to like, but turns out I absolutely love pressing seams open. So, and that was handy when I did that little bead block from Laurie Holt's book. So that was the second pattern in the series, Lucky Charm. Let's put the Lucky Charm on there. The third is another pillow, and this is Jawbreaker. Again, we're using hexagons again, but this time you can see it's a hexagon within a hexagon. So we're getting a little bit more complex now, and definitely those skills are building as we get towards the end of the series. So this hasn't been quilted yet. This is just literally the top that I've pieced. I've used my beloved Tilda fabrics. You can tell I do like a bit of Tilda. And pieced the top here and put the borders on. So this is actually ready for quilting, and you can see from the back all those pressed open seams, which I find very satisfying when they all sit like that, nice and flat. So that's my Jawbreaker pillow. Now the next pattern, just before I move on from Jawbreaker, there were quite a few little sections left from Jawbreaker when I cut those out, so I've saved them all, and I'm actually going to try and I've got enough here to make like a hexagonal pincushion, which I thought would be quite nice. It seems such a shame after having pieced these strips together and then cut them into the triangles to then just waste them, so I thought I'd make a little pincushion. So yeah, because I've got loads of time, haven't I? The next patterns coming up, actually I'm a little bit behind now. I've got my trusty IKEA bags with everything in. The next pattern that I should be working on this week is Rock Candy, and this is a table topper. And I'm going to do this one for Christmas. I've got a Christmas charm pack, and I've got some fabrics here for the background and the backing. So I thought that'd be really nice for the table for Christmas. So I need to get on and get that one cut out and get it sewn. I think the sewing video is out this week. And the other one in the series, there are 6 in total. I'm only doing 5 because one of the table toppers I didn't really like the design very much, but I'm beginning to think maybe I should get it and do it anyway, so that I gain those skills in case I sort of miss out on a vital piece of experience that I'm going to need before I tackle the main quilt next year. So the last pattern that I have to show you today is the candy dish pillows, and it's a set, and it looks like you're using the off cuts from one in the other, so they're sort of like like opposites of each other, if I'm explaining that properly. And I've just dropped the fabric on the floor, and it's another little charm pack. This has got some really fun colours and prints in it, so I think that will make quite a pretty pair of pillows. I don't know where all these pillows are going, but the house is going to be full of quilts and pillows, which doesn't bother me one little bit. So I think I have reached the end of everything I wanted to share with you today. I hope you've found it enjoyable. It's been real fun showing you all what I've been making and all my quilting, because yeah, one of my aunties does do quilting, so it's always fun to catch up with her on it, but nobody else in the family does. They just sort of say, oh, you know, that's nice. So it's nice to share with people that do quilt and sort of get it. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back very soon with another floss tube video, probably next week. But if you wanted to subscribe, please do. You can also find me on Instagram as Bumble Stitches if you want to catch up with me there. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and take care.